Hello, and welcome to Basement Movie Room. We are talking about House of the Dragon, Episode 4, and we just finished watching it a little late, about an hour later than usual for most people. We started a little late because of other things going on, but if you're here, welcome. If it's your first time, be sure to subscribe and check us out on Twitch as well, twitch.tv/Basement Movie Room. Alright, so just to jump right into the episode, like I said, this is episode 4. I took notes this time so I can remember all the scenes, hopefully. And
I didn't forget any of them this episode.
This is episode... overall, what did you guys think about the episode?
I thought it was a very good episode. I mean, it's a lot more setup in this episode. It kind of went back to the first two episodes, you know. Not so much action, it's just the character building. You saw a lot more of that.
Sure.
And, you know, a lot more setup in this episode. So, what about you? I enjoyed it, though.
I enjoyed it. There's a lot more confusion again. I feel like as soon as I'm getting comfortable, something pops up, and then I feel like I'm right back to being confused again. So, still learning.
Yeah, slower episode overall. More setup, like you said, to move forward on the series. Really a lot of setup if you know kind of how the story goes. If you've read Fire and Blood, it's a lot of setup for kind of things that are going to happen.
A lot of nice little nuggets in there, though.
Yeah. Nuggets. That's a good way to put it, for sure.
Of things to come.
All right, so let's just get right into the episode. So, opening up with Rhaenyra holding court for suitors. She's to be married, and they're offering up all the possible people for marriage to her. The opening guy is an older gentleman who she is not into at all. And then following up that guy after she asked him, you know, if her great-grandmother or something like that, what did he think of her great-grandmother? And he's like, that was, half a century ago, you know, because he's an older guy. And following up him, there is probably a kid of like 12, I'd say, who constantly gets made fun of by one of the other suitors who has already gone. We don't catch his name, but he's not going to be long for this world anyway. Like a prancing stallion or something on his, which I don't know who that. I don't know which house that is. But she is flanked up on her little throne by a Baratheon.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Yeah,
and he's not like a small council member. He's just apparently there to help.
He was the one in the tournament, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So that's pretty much the scene. We do get a little fight in this scene between the prancing horse guy who is making fun of the 12-year-old, and the 12-year-old bests him.
Yeah.
Like, cuts his guts out, basically.
Took care of that bully.
Yeah, they fight each other, and the 12-year-old wins. All right, so that's that scene. Do you guys have anything to say about that? It's not really, it's not much to that scene overall. It's just Rhaenyra showing that she's not real fond of trying to find a match.
Yeah. And I thought it was kind of interesting to see a Targaryen sitting with a Baratheon.
Yeah. It's not going to be a great relationship in the future.
Yeah, it's not going to work out very well.
Yeah.
But, it just, you know, going back to Game of Thrones, that everybody knows how that played out. So, yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, it was interesting. But, yeah, that's not much of a scene. I mean, it's just showing that she's not being very fruitful in finding someone to marry, even though her father's given her the choice. And she's putting effort into it at least, but it's kind of the least amount of effort she really has to at that point.
It's a joke to her.
Yeah, it really is.
She just doesn't want to. She wants to make her own path.
Yeah.
So
and I guess I don't know where she was. Was she at Dragonstone doing this? Because she wasn't at King's Landing. Because the next scene is her on a ship heading back to King's Landing with the Kingsguard aboard.
I don't think it was Dragonstone.
One of the different lands.
Yeah.
He talked about how he was setting it up in a different land.
Yeah, it's unclear where exactly she was.
I don't think it was Dragonstone.
I guess it could have been.
That's where Daemon was at.
Because it could have been the Stormlands. She could have. That's why a Baratheon could be with her. It could have been the Stormlands.
Originally, she was supposed to be doing a 2-month tour. So, like, she was supposed to go to one land with a set of suitors, and then I guess she was supposed to go to another land with a set of suitors, because on the boat, they said that
Right.
the king was going to be less than pleased that she cut it 2 months short.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would guess the Stormlands then. I would guess, because the Baratheon was there. No guarantees on what that actually was. Yeah, so the next scene is just her on the ship heading back for King's Landing, cutting it short, as you said. And here comes the Red Worm, Daemon Targaryen's dragon, and clips the top of the ship's mast, apparently. Rhaenyra knocked into the side of the ship, and Caraxes lands at King's Landing. Rhaenyra's boat comes in at King's Landing. Daemon has returned to King's Landing, clearly, in this shot. His war with the Crab Feeder is over. He's in King's Landing, and he's going to meet with Viserys. So that's kind of the next scene that comes up. He comes into the chamber room, the throne room. That's what I was looking for. Throne room. And he comes up. He's wearing a crown made of, I don't know, it looked like antler or bone, maybe?
Just stuff from the sea.
Yeah, and there's indications that he's been made Prince of the Narrow, or King of the Narrow Sea, is what he says he was made. But he is back to basically mend the relationship, or at least it seems, and he kneels for King Viserys, removes his crown, hands it to him, gives him a hammer that we assume was the Crab Feeders to add to the throne, which assumingly will happen because that's what they do with stuff like that. So he gives him a hammer to add to the throne, and he kneels, and of course Viserys forgives him because Viserys wanted to forgive him the whole time. It's pretty clear Viserys does love his brother to an extent, although his brother is not the ideal person, I guess. Especially according to Otto, who's standing in the back just like mad mugging in the back the whole time. But Viserys does forgive him, welcomes him back into the fold, thanks him for taking care of the Crab Feeder, and basically the newfound power they have in the Stepstones is because of Daemon, basically. So so that's the end of that scene. It's really not much else that goes on.
No.
It's just kind of what it is.
Back to the scene with the Daemon flying in.
Oh, yeah.
I thought we were going to get a new dragon at that point. I was kind of like, oh, because you didn't see, you just heard the dragon a little bit.
Yeah.
You didn't really see it until it flew over. And I didn't recognize it at first.
I thought it was going to be Laenor, and Rhaenyra was going to be like, ooh.
Yeah, that can.
But it wasn't Laenor.
Work out.
Yeah, it was Daemon. Daemon's dragon is weird looking. It's like, they call it the Red Worm because it's really long and like wacky waving, inflatable, flailing arm tube man type dragon,
He is.
Moves weird.
Very long. Yeah. But I thought we were going to get a new dragon there, but I'm sure we're going to get plenty of those to come.
Yeah, well, there's at least 10 dragon riders, is what they said. And there could be more dragons as well. Very cool dragons that you'll see in the future, but I don't want to ruin anything. And mildly interesting.
And maybe a dragon that's not ridden too. There is one out there.
Probably a few.
Yeah, there is one that they don't,
Yeah. So
I don't know if they'll put that in there.
Yeah, so that's that scene. I don't know if you guys had anything else to say about that scene at all. Okay.
No. It's just a, kind of got you all warm inside. Be happy.
A little fuzzy.
Yeah. So, no, not too much to that.
All right. So after that, we're at a banquet with Viserys and Daemon, kind of like just jabbing at each other, talking about old times. And you also get, really that's just them two, but the better part of that scene is with Alicent and Rhaenyra kind of making up, I guess, is what happens there. They end up sitting together, and Rhaenyra says, "Oh, I've missed you," and Alicent's, they're just, a couple girls, because they're still girls. They're like 17, 18 maybe at this point. I guess a little time passed. This has not been as big a time jump as the previous two episodes. Yeah. Alicent obviously had the other child. Child looked about 6 months old, probably. Give or take.
Far along.
Yeah. So she was about 9. She was pretty much 9 months pregnant in the last episode. So she had the child. The child's probably about 6 months. So you got to figure we've had a few, 3 to 6 months skip here. So it's not much, but they're finally making up and becoming friends again to an extent, although maybe the rest of this episode doesn't help that part. And Rhaenyra essentially says, she needs a friend, is what she needs, because she doesn't really have any friends. And Alicent doesn't either. It's just Viserys, who she clearly she doesn't love him. She's just there because of the convenient marriage that her father put her into.
Yeah,
so
that's later.
yeah,
That's
comes
shown
later.
pretty well.
Yeah, that comes later for sure.
Yeah.
So that's the end of that scene. Do you guys have anything to talk about on that one?
Yeah, no, just the relationship between the two girls. It's like it's almost awkward at this point
Yeah.
because you saw kind of what they were, and they did such a great job of showing how good of friends that they were. And now it's just like they both have a duty, and they want to say certain things but they can't, and it's just almost an awkward relationship now.
Right.
So yeah, anything? Girls' perspective
I feel like
on the girls.
I feel like they both did open up though. So I kind of feel like yes, they do have the duties, and yes, they have been very, very separate in their titles from the friendship to being queen and princess. To where they kind of went back to friends because the queen even said to her, you know, oh, how awful it must be for you to be able to go from land to land and have suitors fall all over you. And the princess's opinion is very, very different, and they were both kind of open and joked about it almost. So I felt like that was 100% kind of like an open door between the two of them, mending things
Kind
for
of
the
broke
moment.
the ice a little bit.
For the moment. So yeah, it was kind of nice to see the two of them have that back again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It to me it just seemed like they're a little awkward around
Well,
each
they're
other
uptight.
now. Yeah,
Her best friend married her dad, and
because of everything.
now she's had his
everything
children.
that's
That's gotta be
surrounding.
awkward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Awkward for anybody.
She's your brother and your sister's mom, and she was your friend.
yeah.
And now she's sleeping with your dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh.
It's very awkward.
Yeah. But you know, that's history for you too.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah.
All right, so the next scene, we move on from that scene to Daemon and Rhaenyra at the Heart Tree in King's Landing. They meet there, and they're discussing the airship thing, where Daemon's kind of telling her that she's going to be supplanted by Aegon, essentially. And she's stating that essentially, you know, if she was a man, it wouldn't matter. And they're talking all in Old Valyrian.
Yeah.
So basically, the whole conversation's in Old Valyrian. It's very well done because they obviously had to learn all that language that is not English and not a real language. So it's like they had to learn the Valyrian. They're talking about that, and I don't remember much else what they're talking about.
It's hard enough to act
Yeah.
with regular lines, but then have to do it in a different
made up language.
Oh man!
Not even a real language, a made up language.
And the way they roll their tongues and stuff,
Oh,
they make it sound so believable.
it's great.
Yeah, it's impressive.
And so you're getting more of the relationship between Rhaenyra and Daemon here. It's a very friendly relationship, which the rest of the episode goes into more of that. That, you know, obviously she has significant love for Daemon here, and she does like him quite a bit, and she's glad he's back. But, you know, they're discussing things that basically she's the heir, he thought he should be the heir. But at this point, I guess Daemon has no heirship at this point. If the king would have got remarried and had the son before he did that, it was no question. Daemon had no claim to the throne at that point anyway. And even though he made Rhaenyra, it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, Daemon's completely out of the picture now. Because there's Rhaenyra, there's Aegon, there's another daughter that the king could technically do.
Did he just make him like a protector of the realm or something? Well, after
After they met?
Yeah, when they made their amends.
I mean, I don't think he did. I think he just let him back into the fold.
Yeah. Didn't really give him a title or anything.
No.
Okay.
Assumingly, he might at some point, but he didn't.
I didn't catch that. Yeah.
He just welcomed him back into the realm.
Okay. Everything's
That's it.
happy. Yeah.
So that's it for that scene. Anything else on that scene?
No. Good.
All right, so the next scene is the small council meeting. If you notice, this time Rhaenyra is sitting in a chair at the small council meeting rather than being a cupbearer. So she's moved up in the world where the father, Viserys, is actually recognizing her for what she is instead of making her just pour the wine at the meetings. So she's sitting in the chair next to Otto. There is the new Master of Ships, which is Tylan Lannister. He's the Master of Ships now. And then you have the same other three guys. You have Lionel Strong and the Maester and the other guy. I can't remember his name. And they're discussing Corlys Velaryon. Corlys is apparently still on the outs, even though Daemon came back to the fold. Corlys is still on the outs with the king, and he's essentially getting in with the Triarchy in Braavos, and is marrying Laena, who the king didn't marry, thankfully, because she was like 8 years old, actually 12, but looked 8. And he's wedding her to one of the princes of the Triarchy, somebody over there, to get power from the Triarchy and like join their houses. So they're trying to figure out what they should do with Corlys. Lionel Strong has obviously suggested that Laenor and Rhaenyra be married, but the king is not making Rhaenyra do anything at this point. He's letting her decide on his own, so that hasn't really come up at this point. And I don't remember anything else that happens there. I think that was kind of it.
That's pretty much yeah.
They just talked about Corlys and how to deal with Corlys. Obviously, the marriage would take care of that, but right now it's not on the table.
I love how Tylan looked like he was so out of place there. He was looking around like, I don't know what's going on right now.
The interesting thing is he's a Lannister. Lannisters do live on, I believe, the ocean. I believe Lannisport is on the ocean, but we've never heard of them as ship people in this. I mean, the Redwynes, if you remember last episode, there was a Lady Redwyne. They're ship people. They have the second largest fleet behind Corlys, basically, private fleet behind Corlys Velaryon. So it's interesting you named a Lannister, but then again, the Lannisters have a lot of gold. They're on gold mines. That's what they're known for.
Very rich.
Very rich. So Tylan is probably not the ideal shipmaster, but it's a political appointment.
He just looked like...
Yeah. He's the twin.
He was confused. He clearly looked confused.
He's the twin of Jason Lannister, who tried to have Rhaenyra marry him. They're played by the same guy. They're not actual twins. They're just the same guy playing, but he has different hairstyle.
One's long, one's shorter.
One's long, one's shorter. So, yeah, Tylan kind of looks out of place. He doesn't really have a lot to say in the meeting. He's the new guy, I guess. He's just kind of sitting there. But yeah, that's all there was to that scene. The next scene is where the episode really goes a little crazy. We follow Rhaenyra into her chambers. She sneaks out of her chambers dressed as kind of a boy and meets up with her uncle Daemon to go out into the public and go to like it's a carnival.
Yeah, just hit up the night.
Yeah, it's just a carnival and stuff. So she goes out. Her and Daemon are walking through the carnival, experiencing other things. They go to a play about the dynasty and Rhaenyra, and it's kind of like she starts hearing that the public doesn't particularly like her as the heir, and that they're saying that Aegon should take over the heir, that she doesn't have a cock.
Yeah,
that's part of the whole thing, and you get the weird rope thing. So obviously
very creative.
She kind of starts to boo in that part, and Daemon's like, no, this is the people, the will of the people, and she's like, I don't care, the will of the people doesn't matter, and he's like, well, it does when you are the queen or the king. It will matter because they're the important. They're the ones you're working for. And they keep going. She's drinking a lot, and intercut during this. Also, the king requests Alicent to come to his chambers. We get a small scene of that with Alicent coming to his chambers, and. I'll stop right there until we get into the next part. Yeah. So anything to say about those couple little parts?
Yeah, no, it was kind of... The play was kind of reminiscent of what you got in Game of Thrones with...
Oh, yeah, the mummers doing the Arya in Arya Braavos. I
automatically went back to that.
Yeah, that's definitely what they were looking for.
So, that was kind of nice.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, just kind of gives the public's view of... the hierarchy. So
yeah.
I think it had a little bit to do with their conversation earlier in the day in the courtyard. I think that he took what she said to him to heart and wanted her to see what outside life was like, because she kind of spoke of how courtship and being married was essentially like a death sentence for her.
Yeah.
So I think this was his way of showing her, okay, well, if roles were reversed and you were a commoner, this is what it would end up being like.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Hey, we got a comment here. Sorry, I'm not gonna get this name right. I'm gonna say Ratatosker 9. It's what I'm gonna go with. But thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us
Better
for
than
sure.
what I would have said.
Yeah, no, it's close. It's close
I
enough.
butcher everything. I butcher every name.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks for
sure.
joining.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is a kind of interesting place, and it's going to go a much interesting place in the next scene that I come to. So the next scenes are kind of an intercut between the king and Alicent and Rhaenyra and Daemon. Daemon ends up taking Rhaenyra to a pleasure house where there is a large orgy going on. All kinds of stuff going on. Typical Game of Thrones orgy type stuff.
Hot D. All up in that place.
Yeah. And so
Hot D.
Okay.
you got it in. You got your joke in.
Got it in. I was so happy. I said it during the show, so I had to say it now.
You have to bring it back. And so Daemon takes her to a pleasure house, and this is intercut with the king and Alicent having sex again. And the king's looking rough, man. Sores all over him.
Yeah.
He is looking rough.
Looking like a leper.
So the more important part, that's kind of like it's like, whatever. We're not going to talk more about that part. and so in the pleasure house, that's Carolyn. Yeah. So in the pleasure house, Daemon and Rhaenyra start making out, basically, and that's Targaryen way for you, basically. Yeah. That's the Targaryen way of inter-family love, basically. So they start making out, and they're getting pretty hot and heavy. But Daemon stops it. He's the one who stops it. Rhaenyra doesn't want to stop it. And so she kind of, tries to keep it going, and he kind of pushes her off, and he leaves. Mm-hmm. Oh, and there's also that part with Rhaenyra running away from him after stealing something, and then she's recognized by one of the city watch who just lets her go. I forgot to mention that part, but it's interesting that the city watchman just kind of lets her go, and then Daemon passes by him. He doesn't seem to recognize him. So
I got a little confused on that, and I was like, it
is interesting. So Rey is left alone in the pleasure house. And she leaves and goes back to the castle and kind of surprises Sir Crispin Cole. Crispin. Yeah, Crispin Cole.
Yes.
That she's not in her room because that's where he left her. That's where he last saw her. Mm-hmm. And she goes in the room, and then she comes back, and Crispin Cole comes in the room. She steals his helmet and starts playing around with him. And then she ends up seducing him, essentially, and they have sex. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the end of that whole part. And it's a long part, to be honest. It goes for a long time.
It took him 45 minutes to just get undressed.
Yeah.
From the armor.
Man, there's a lot of laces on that armor and those boots and everything else.
Yeah, they had to be exhausted before they even started the act.
So that's kind of that scene. Do you guys have anything else to say about that? It's not the easiest stuff to talk about, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, just the king, when he's doing his thing, Alicent's just sitting there like, oh gosh,
she's not excited.
Yeah, she's like, oh, she's getting tired of it.
Yeah, so she is not excited.
Yeah, and then the Daemon and Rhaenyra thing, that there's more to come with that. So, but you have anything?
The whole thing that I just think is just gross. The whole incest thing.
It is.
I can't do it.
You didn't watch Game of Thrones.
No, I didn't, and I can't. Like, I know it's a part of whatever this whole
just
thing
preparing
is.
her for that.
Yeah.
We're gonna go back and watch it.
Yeah, no, you got to go back and watch it. Yeah, you'll understand more. And Ratatosker. Sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. I think you're right. It's politics. Damon is playing a game for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's
probably
what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Nice.
So he was trying to do an upper hand, clearly, to try to seduce her, so that he could take that to the king. Like, that was very, very clear. And then, like you said, his conscience kind of took over, and he stopped, probably understanding that A, the king probably would have killed him, and B, that's not where Rhaenyra's head was. Like, she thought that he was trying to seduce her.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to, not because he was wanting to try to take over
Yeah,
part of the power.
Yeah, he says, he didn't expect her to be so into it, basically.
Yeah.
So commenting into it.
Kind of took him for surprise.
It's kind of a surprise, so he kind of quit. He
So-
knew he quit while he was ahead. He knew he got done what he wanted to do. And when she left the pleasure house, a little kid runs off because he
Little
saw
bird.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, the
like
spider
little
from
birds.
Game of Thrones. That's one of his little birds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that kid runs off and goes to Otto. That's our next scene. The Spy Kid. Robert
Kid.
Rodriguez's Spy Kid. He goes to Otto and talks. Clearly, we don't see what he tells him, but we know what he's telling him, obviously. And Otto immediately is going to go to the king. And in between Otto and the Spy Kid, you get a scene with Daemon and Mysaria, who is back. Daemon had indicated earlier that he'd gotten rid of Mysaria. He had really only done that to piss off Viserys, ultimately. But she's got him wherever she is. And I don't know if it's... was it clear to you guys that she's the spy person? Because that kid is in there with her. That same kid is there that went to Otto. She's the one that's doing... She says, I'm doing something else now.
Right.
She's like the master of whispers at this point for Otto. She's doing that. So clearly she's playing a game.
She's definitely in that game.
Yeah, she's playing a game here, and she's like the little spy leader now that's helping Otto at this point. So Damon's like super hungover and all messed up, and she tells him, pay for the room on your way out. She's done with him essentially at this point, but he leaves. And that's the end of that scene. So really not much else on that scene. I don't even know if you guys have anything to say about it. It's pretty clear what's happening there. She's just playing the game, obviously.
Yeah.
So the next scene is Otto actually telling Viserys of Rhaenyra being in the pleasure house. And he obviously goes into more detail because this kid never was in the pleasure house, had no idea what went on in there.
Yeah.
So clearly Otto's pushing a narrative, which we know he tends to do. Otto's going to push his narrative to try to help his grandson become king one day. And this somewhat backfires on him ultimately. It certainly does. The king is not having it. He's like, what proof do you have of this? Like, oh, the spy told me. He's like, oh, they're just slandering. The king's not believing it, or at least not believing it to Otto's face. At least the scene later in the episode, which we'll talk about, says that maybe Otto he does believe. I don't know, but yeah. So that's that scene. Do you have anything on that one?
Yeah, no, it's just Viserys is finally picking up on Otto's game a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
no doubt.
yeah, it's taking him a little time,
Yeah.
but
Oh yeah, Daemon definitely knew there would be spies. Daemon knows what's going on, even if he didn't know Mysaria was in charge of that. He definitely knows what's going on. It's what he's trying to do, and that's absolutely, that's absolutely, and that's going to come up. What the wed part.
absolutely.
So the next scene after Otto telling Viserys, my writing's terrible and I'm bad at writing in the dark, apparently. Rhaenyra and Crispin, yes, Kristen Cole in the morning, just where Kristen is kind of like, it's the awkward next morning thing. Your boss, you slept with your boss. Good job. And there's a message from Alicent to meet her.
Yeah.
So Rhaenyra goes to meet Alicent by the Heart Tree. The Heart Tree gets a lot of play in this episode because it's where a lot of things go on. Mm-hmm. And Alicent tells Rhaenyra that she overheard that Otto, her dad, had told Viserys about this pleasure house thing and what he told her. And of course, Rhaenyra is like, that's not true. Even though it's somewhat true, although not completely true, it's like it's like partial truth. She denies completely, but there is some partial truth to it nonetheless. I mean, she didn't have sex with Daemon, but they had quite a few passionate kisses, I guess. That Daemon obviously was setting it up.
Yeah.
So that scene, it's kind of like the friendship just got mended, and now it's like, oh, not again. But Alicent believes her. I think she ultimately believes her. And I don't think the friendship is that broken at this point. Alicent believes her and is going to go back to Viserys, I think, and tell him that she talked to him.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially. And
I mean,
which she does.
Rhaenyra lied to Alicent too.
Yeah.
She's not a virgin anymore.
She's not. She doesn't tell about her whole
there's a
Kristen Cole adventure.
Mm-hmm.
She only reveals enough truth that she has to.
Yeah.
Because she's not going to tell her. It's her stepmother at this point. It's weird.
Yes.
So she's not going to tell her that.
Weird family tree.
Yeah.
But that's what you get.
Family tree,
That's what you get in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But I think that scene right there might turn Alicent against Otto too. Like, she's going to start losing trust in Otto and his. I think she's going to start picking up on Otto's game, and there's going to be a fractured relationship there. I think that's going to be the beginning of it, because she's figuring out. He's putting her in these positions for his game.
Yeah. Oh no.
I think she's going to start figuring that out from this point.
That goes back to the whole conversation about women versus men too in this show. It's like women are to be bought and sold, men are the power. So really, her being the daughter is just going to use her to his own ends.
Oh yeah,
that's all it is. That's being a woman in this show.
She's a chess piece of his.
Absolutely.
She brings it up to him here in the next scene.
Yeah, it definitely does.
I think that between Rhaenyra and Alicent in that scene got this going, with her thinking about Otto and his plans. So, anything?
No, I kind of felt bad for Rhaenyra at that point. Like, she just wanted to have a night of normalcy. Mm-hmm. And of course it gets blasted all over, which she should expect because she's a princess. But it just, you kind of feel for her from a girl's point of view, where you just kind of wanted to be you for a moment, and now you're getting chastised up and down the door. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I hated that she felt like she had to defend herself against something that she was doing for herself.
Yeah.
A choice that she made for herself for once.
Can't blow off some steam.
That's right. Yeah, and he's saying that Crispin didn't enjoy that. Crispin probably enjoyed that, to be honest. But he couldn't say no.
Yeah,
it's kind of like, if he said no, he's probably done. If he says yes, he's probably okay, because she's probably not going to tell anybody.
Right.
But yeah, he couldn't reject it.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
Even during the show, I was like, he's not going to do it.
I thought
at one point he was gonna stop her.
And in the books, it's only rumored that kind of stuff
Yeah.
happened between those two. It's not actually. Mushroom would be in the run to write that, but
they just cuddled.
In his armor, he never took it off.
They just cuddled naked.
Is that a thing?
So the next scene is Daemon returning to the king, Viserys. And Viserys comes in to talk to him, and Daemon's so hungover he can't. He lays down on the floor in the throne room, and just can't get up. And Viserys is like, "Did you do this?" And all this. But Daemon doesn't deny it. Is the thing. He doesn't, even though he knows nothing happened. He just wants to piss the king off that much. Mm-hmm. Because despite the fact that he never will be an heir anymore, essentially, unless he kills a bunch of people, he doesn't care. He just his long game is still in play. His long game is still in play, and then he hits out that he should marry Rhaenyra. That it'd be a strong relationship, and the king's like, "Well, you're already married."
Yeah.
He's like, "But Aegon had multiple wives, which Aegon married his two sisters." So, that was a little bit of interesting stuff. Yeah, he married both of his sisters, Visenya and the other one. I can't remember the name of the other one, but yeah. So he married both sisters. So Aegon is the example there, although that wasn't well respected in the kingdom. But Aegon was the king. What were they going to do? But the king's not having it. He kicks Daemon in the ribs, and basically banishes him again.
Yeah.
It's that little section of friendship again did not go very far. He tells him to go home to the Vale.
Dang it.
Again. Yeah. He's tried this once already. It didn't work the first time. I don't know if it's going to work this time. It's not, probably. He tells him to go home to the Vale and be with his own wife. And then he leaves.
Yeah.
Basically. He just leaves Daemon there laying in the floor of the throne room, which we've all been there We know how that feels.
Kill me now.
Yeah. So he leaves him there, and that's the end of that scene.
Yeah.
Anything to bring to that?
I mean, that's just that's planting the seeds.
Mm-hmm.
That scene right there is really planting the seeds of what's to come. So I liked it. I thought it was well done with just Damon being
Damon.
Yeah, I mean he's the guy that
Damon.
he's gonna poke and poke and poke until he can figure out.
The thing is, I don't think Rhaenyra would have thought it was a bad idea to marry him.
No.
I think she probably would have said that was a good idea, but she can't. She wasn't there, obviously, and clearly her father thinks it's a terrible idea because it is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Because it's just Damon seeking power again.
The guy that married a 15-year-old
Yeah.
thinks it's a bad idea.
Quality choices.
Yeah.
Quality choices all around here. The Targaryens.
Moral high ground is pretty low.
Moral high ground for Targaryens in general is pretty low.
Yeah, it's pretty flat plane.
Yeah.
So, anything else? No? Yeah.
All right, so the next scene is Rhaenyra and her father speaking. So definitely wants Damon. Yeah, it would benefit her political-wise. No doubt, Rat.
I love the discussion.
Yeah, I love that you're bringing in the
Bringing up
discussion.
great
I'm going to call you Rat. I hope that's not like, I hope that's cool with you. It's just easier.
Ratajkowski?
It's a KR.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, no, it's
And I agree with him on that point that it's her who wants to lust, but I think that's why she looks to Damon is because she feels like she can trust him.
yeah.
And she can speak with him openly and freely and kind of
He's family.
he's family, but he's also the black sheep to where that's how she feels, I think, in some regard to where she feels like she can relate to him.
Yeah, she's the heir, though. It's kind of crazy to feel that way when you're the heir to the kingdom.
But she's only the heir because it's basically by default. You know, he could have chosen a male, but he chose Rhaenyra because he sees in her what he saw in himself and his wife. I can't think of her name now. But I feel like she feels connected to Damon and that she trusts him. Yes. She trusts him a little bit on that end of that she can speak openly and freely and hope that he's going to give her the right advice back because they have that relationship. But I don't think she understands the darker side. She understands his darker side, but doesn't think that he would use it against her, which is why I think this whole episode kind of ties in all that. So I agree with that statement 100%.
She definitely wants Matt Damon.
I'll
say Matt Smith and Damon. Yeah, she definitely wants Damon's hot D.
Okay,
And
enough
say it
for the
again.
hot
And
D.
say it again.
Really gross.
That's it. Last time.
Yeah,
thank you.
You're not going to bring it up anymore.
So yeah.
So
We're past
so
that.
The scene right now is Rhaenyra going to her father and talking to her father about the situation, and her father wants to believe her, but of course we've said the later scene is clearly that he doesn't believe her. Although he's somewhat right, he's just not right about the right person
Or is it a
ultimately.
test?
But he says, it doesn't matter whether you did it or not. It's the optics of it all. It's the perception that matters. You are the heir. You have to make a perception. And she makes the point again, like, if I was a man, nobody would think twice about this.
Right.
It wouldn't have made much difference. And even like Damon and Viserys, he said earlier, we were in the pleasure houses all the time, you know. And he's like, but we're men. It's different.
Even Damon was when he was expected to be there.
Yeah.
He was. I mean, that was one of the scenes.
It just doesn't matter in this universe. It does not
Exactly.
matter.
So he was doing the same thing.
If you're and Bobby D in Game of Thrones, Robert Baratheon was. I mean, they had a whole session of killing all his bastards in the show. Yeah. That's how much he was going to the pleasure houses as a married man in Game of Thrones. So yeah, the men, it doesn't matter. They get away with it. The women, it's a different optic. He's like, the men will never be, marry you. They'll think you're ruined and all that. Mm-hmm. It's like, and the funny thing is that still kind of is even a thing today in today's society that, it's weird. It's weird in religious type things. And, you can be religious, it's fine. You can do whatever you want. But certain religions, all religions pretty much, in the Christian faith, look down on that kind of stuff for women more than they do men, unfortunately.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. So
men get a pass.
So, she essentially tells her father that's not true, that didn't happen and all that. And I guess that kind of ends. He doesn't acknowledge that he believes her. He somewhat says he believes her, but that's kind of the end of the scene. And then we have one more scene in between the scene that says he doesn't believe her. So anything to say in that scene, I want to move on. If you guys got anything else.
No, I mean, it is what it is.
It's a good scene.
It explains itself.
I think it's a good scene because he basically acknowledges that he starts off by talking about the power that he's trying to give her. He's trying to explain, like, you did what you did, but you have to understand that when you're in power, you're not going to be able to do these types of things and get away with it or not be viewed differently. So I think it was his fatherly, quote-unquote, way of explaining the ways of the world, and her still trying to be a naive girl and saying, but it shouldn't be that way. You as men can do it. Why can't I?
Right.
And he's like, such like
he kind of doubled down on keeping her as heir again, though. Here,
yeah,
I mean, he's not backing off there.
That's how he started it off with her. It wasn't even, I'm not going to get mad at you. I didn't call you in here to get mad at you. I'm trying to explain that to you.
Yeah, he's a bad king in some ways, but he's actually a good king in some ways. As a rat, you're saying Viserys is not stupid. No, he's definitely not stupid.
No,
he's smart enough to see things. Although he hasn't been smart enough to see that Otto's been manipulating until the next scene.
I think he's slow to pick up on things, which makes him bad. That's his one of his weaknesses.
Right. Yeah, so. And he's a bad king in the way that he avoids conflict, but in the worst way.
Yes.
By just ignoring it. Mm-hmm. So he looks like a weak king, but ultimately he keeps his people safe by doing that. But it makes him look weak to other people. So that in that part he is a bad king. But right now his people are fed. Everybody seems to be happy. Everybody seems to like him overall. There's been no war for a very long time.
It's peace.
It's peace. So at least with the small folk, as they call them.
The war on the Stepstones was brought up by Daemon.
This is Daemon and Corlys. Yeah, they took care of that.
He had nothing to do with it.
I mean, when he got involved, that's when Daemon went and, did his badass show last time. Which was crazy.
No lines. Love it. But,
So the next scene is where Viserys has finally realized that Otto is manipulating him. And that Otto only cares about his bloodline and not the king, not the kingdom. Although I don't think it's completely true that Otto doesn't care about the kingdom. I think he does care about the kingdom.
Agreed.
But they meet in the council chamber, and the king essentially says, "Hey, you've been hand to two kings, Jaehaerys and myself, and you were very good to Jaehaerys. But when Jaehaerys was going to name Balon, my father, as hand to the king, he died 5 days later." And I feel like that's some kind of saying that maybe he had something to do with it, but he doesn't have any proof of it.
As well.
Doesn't have any proof of it, obviously. Otherwise, Otto would be dead. So he kind of indicates that, hey, because my dad died, Balon died, you became hand, and you've been hand for a very long time, but I think your time is up, basically.
Viserys is not stupid.
Yeah, he's not stupid there. He's not stupid there. He realizes that at this point, with Alicent being his wife and Aegon being a male heir, that Otto is only interested in the power at this time. And it's kind of overtaken his mission to keep the kingdom safe and be the hand he needs to be, and that he needs a new hand. And now, we get to speculate on who will be the new hand. I think your speculation was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Lionel Strong. That's who you speculated.
They've been showing a lot of him.
Yeah. He gives good advice,
and his advice is sound, and he doesn't seem like he's in it.
He doesn't have the ambition, it seems like.
Yeah.
Yet. I mean,
it's
because I don't know if you knew this, but I was reading up on this, and he does. When the king says, "Oh, your fine son, who's one of the strongest in the land," and all that, it actually is true, because his son is what is his name? Harold Brightbones or something they call him, or something like that. Yeah, because he's like a huge hulking dude. But in that scene where Rhaenyra brings the boar back in the last scene, all the people are kind of like horrified by it. The only guy smiling is Breakbones. He's like got this huge smile on his face when they crash.
Huh.
And we're not giving that because you don't really know who he is yet. But his brother is the one with the club foot.
I did see.
He's
Okay.
the strongest. Got like the sideways foot. He's all messed up.
Okay.
So, but Breakbones is Lionel's son. So that's actually true. But yeah, Lionel's been the best advice giver in the show so far.
Yeah.
He's giving the advice that would help the kingdom and avoid the conflict in a good way.
He cares about the realm,
Not
and
Otto.
not his. Yeah,
Otto cared about the
ambitions.
realm until he can advance his family.
Yeah.
Basically, Lionel Strong's not trying to advance his family, at least not outright. You know, he's saying that he should have married Lena, even though she was like 12, and now he's saying his advice was the one to marry Laenor, which is what's going to happen because in this conversation,
he's still trying to unite.
Yeah, in that goes back. We forgot to mention that Viserys says you're going to marry Laenor Velaryon.
Yeah,
that's who you're going to marry
because that's strong. Yeah,
that's going to strengthen the realm. You don't get to make that choice anymore.
That definitely has to be.
Yeah,
which great.
It's a smart match. That's Lionel Strong's.
I think I'd rather have Otto, like that whole saying, "Keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer." I think I'd rather keep Otto close,
Oh yeah,
closer than
yeah.
I don't want to like he takes the hand away from him, being the hand of the king away from him. I don't think that was a great move.
Yeah,
because now he's a wild card.
Oh, Otto's a wild card now.
So
and Viserys
he's
did
gonna
play.
wreak havoc.
Rat's saying Viserys played into Rhaenyra's hand by sending Otto away. Yeah, because Otto's not looking out for the good of Rhaenyra either. Rhaenyra doesn't want Otto there.
She's willing to lie her way to the throne.
She's going to.
And it showed that with her conversation with Alicent, too.
I mean, the real problem is, at this point, you still have Otto's grandson as a possible heir. So Otto going away doesn't really change that his family is part of the kingdom right now.
Yeah.
So, and Viserys did counter it by marrying Rhaenyra to her cousin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's his cousin, too, because his cousin's child, essentially, Rhaenys' child. So at this point we go back to one more scene with Rhaenyra, and we have the Maester come into Rhaenyra's room with a small little, I don't know, like it looks like
a perfume bottle.
Shabersham. Yeah, what is that?
Chambord.
Chambord? Yeah.
Chambord.
Yeah, Chambord, which is made
like
from Shabersham grapes, actually. So it's like it's an alcohol. It looks like one of those. It's like Louis XIV.
It's a raspberry liqueur.
Yeah, it's like,
Say that 10 times.
Yeah, no, impossible. It's Chambord. It looks like one of those containers. And I knew what it was the minute he walked in the room because we've seen Game of Thrones. You didn't know because you hadn't seen Game of Thrones.
But she picked up on it.
But yeah, it's abortion tea, essentially. It's called moon tea in the Game of Thrones universe. It's moon tea is what they call it, and it's basically a tea that you drink if you don't want to have a baby. It's the morning after pill in
liquid form.
In Game of Thrones universe. So the Maester who's on the small council brings it in and presents it to Rhaenyra. She had no idea it was coming.
Yeah.
He said, King Viserys, thought you might need this. So clearly it shows that Viserys had never believed her. She had lied to him, and he doesn't believe her. That's why he's marrying off to Laenor, because he is concerned that she's going to get pregnant, clearly, and he needs her to be married to do that. So he's marrying off to Laenor. She's to drink the moon tea and have an abortion of a baby that may or may not be there, and would be Criston's.
Who?
Crispin. Sir Crispin Cole.
Thank you. Pronounce it correctly.
Sir Crispin Glover. So, yeah. So she is to drink the moon tea, and that's where the episode ends.
Yeah.
Right then and there. So, yeah, Viserys is not stupid, as you said, Rat. He's not stupid at all. He knows something happened. He just doesn't know what. He's not sure if Daemon's telling the truth. He's not sure if she's telling the truth, but he thinks somebody's lying. Mm-hmm. So somebody's dying. He doesn't. And Criston Cole's not dead, so clearly we don't know. They don't know it's him. So
I really like what you had to say about that. The king sending that to her.
I don't know if it's a test. I feel like it might be a little bit of a test because she doesn't drink it. So does she drink it and that admits her guilt, and he's got a way that he's going to deal with it from that end, or if she lets it sit kind of as like a fuck you type thing.
Language.
It's a family podcast.
It's kind of like we're literally talking about sex in this episode. Are you kidding me?
It's a family show.
Can't say it.
No, you're talking about hot tea. Like, really? So, yes, I can say it.
It's a family show, you know.
Yeah.
Damon and Rhaenyra family show.
I think that it could go one of two ways. And nice. I don't know if that's like a real thing, but I think that it could go one of two ways, that it's a test.
It is a family show.
Well, then I apologize.
No. He's playing the joke we're playing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does she drink it, and that's her way of admitting guilt, and then he's going to deal with it one way, or does she let it sit, and that's her way of saying no, it didn't happen, and her taking that risk and dealing with the consequences later. Yeah. So that's kind of that's the way I interpreted it.
I like that interpretation a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
It's a good possible interpretation.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
I like that a lot.
All right. So I think that's it for House of the Dragon, episode 4. We're going to run right over into, in just a few minutes, Rings of Power, episode 3. We aren't able to watch that on Thursdays anymore, so
that's pretty
that podcast is going to be what we record right after this. Ashley, I don't think you're watching that one, are you?
I won't be, so I'll be signing off here.
So she'll sign off here.
I think the names are tough and.
Wait a minute, best episode of the season for House of the Dragon or Rings of Power? Because we're going to talk about that. I don't think this is the best episode of the season for House of the Dragon. I think it's the one that moves the plot forward the best.
Yeah.
Awkward
I think it's
episode.
the one that moves the plot forward the best. I liked the last episode for the action. But yeah, this episode's really good, Rat. I mean, it really is. It's a really good episode, too. It's the more political of the episodes, which is usually the best stuff in Game of Thrones.
All of them have just been excellent.
Yeah, they're all excellent. It's hard to pick.
It's really hard for me to pick right now.
Yeah, it's really hard.
My favorite.
And usually, I watch them like
a
couple times usually.
This one has really pushed.
I think it's pushing the plot because we're about to lose Millie Alcock and Emily Carey as the actors in this, because mid-season they're moving forward 10 years, I think. So
and
we're going to lose those actresses.
These time jumps too, man. I think it's bringing up to you earlier, not to get too far ahead, but you get later in seasons, maybe we're gonna get a little Battle of the Trident, one day. So
we can only hope we get that
because
far.
They bring up 200 years, which is 172, but with these time jumps, they can.
And then they just time jump to season 6 of Game of Thrones and start from there, right?
No, they'll take care of that with the Jon Snow show.
Yeah, right. All right, so I think that's it for House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
We will be back next week on Sunday at around 9, 10. Depends on how soon we get it done. But thanks for watching, Rat. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
We hope you come back. Be sure to follow us. You made some great points. We'd love to have you back next week.
Love the discussion.
Yeah, it helps the discussion for sure. So, and be sure to check us out on your favorite podcast app. Hey, you followed. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Be sure to check us out on your favorite podcast app. Any of the podcasts, just search for Basement Movie Room. You'll find the podcast. We do movies and House of the Dragon and Rings of Power. And we will see everyone next time. Thanks for watching and listening.